Hello? Annie?
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Oh, fantastic.
How are you?
Good, good. I'm not sure if we do video that Amandus in Tanzania can I don't think his bandwidth can handle video, so we might want to just do voice only.
Awesome. That's perfect.
Great. So Amandus is on the call. He's in Mwanza, Tanzania. He's our project director for Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually sawing a tree outside my window at this moment. I'm going to mute my microphone, and you guys can, Amandus can introduce himself, and you guys can introduce.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Annie.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
How are you?
Good. How are you? Question out of curiosity, what time is it in Tanzania?
It's 4 p.m. right now.
Oh,
okay. Perfect.
Oh, that's good. So
Yeah.
we
It's sunny
have.
outside.
Is it sunny? Of course, it's sunny.
It's sunny outside, I think.
So we're four.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit slow, but we can.
Yeah. So you have to take breaks when you talk because my internet connection isn't that good.
All right.
Okay.
So we have a set of questions.
Sure, please shoot.
We're gonna start briefly about our project. We're focusing on clean water access, and we're specifying safety when it comes to that. So we're focusing on
the girls who go get the water and the methods that they use to get the water and the paths that they travel to get there and how safe is it, can it be safer, and things like that. Because there's a correlation. Because we feel like there's a correlation between the girls who go to get the water and if they get harmed or attacked or raped on the way, they get pregnant and maybe they drop out of school for that reason.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like our focus area. So the questions that we're going to ask are mostly on the water side of it and hoping to get some insight onto what effects that has, if any.
Okay, that's very interesting.
Thank you. So the first questions, we were wondering what are the conditions of the roads toward clean water sources?
So let me try to give you a bit of a background about fetching water here in Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most part of urban parts of the country, most households have private connections.
Right.
Look,
So please note if you can hear me.
Yes.
Yeah. So most households in urban parts of the country have private connections, but peri-urban areas and rural areas, people have to go to public water points to fetch water.
Mm-hmm.
And such public water points can be public kiosks or protected springs or protected dug wells.
All right.
So for the case of peri-urban areas and rural areas, it is mostly women and girls who go to fetch water.
What are the rural
And
areas?
they usually... what was that?
Like, are there any, like, what are the major rural areas, like the big lands out there that where these women and girls are getting the water?
So for most of the countries in East Africa, you will find maybe a city or a big town located somewhere. And if you stretch out about 40 kilometers outside the city center or the town center,
Yeah.
you will find places where we call urban areas. And if you go farther, like 50 kilometers and above, then you'll find rural areas where infrastructures such as roads are very poor, and there is no piped network of water to reach such communities.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So for such cases, people have to go. It depends. People have to go a long distance. Sometimes it might take half an hour to go get water and come back home. So when I say half an hour to go get water and come back home, they'll spend 30 minutes, including walking to the water point, waiting in line, fetching water, and heading back home.
Interesting.
So that is like the average time for most people to go get water in such rural areas. And it is
I'll
more
just add with quick Commandus that sanitation is also a big safety point in addition to the water, because the water can sometimes be more social, which would make it a little bit safer. But especially whenever someone is defecating, they are trying to be private by themselves, and that's a big danger for rape as well. We did a study where we asked people, how likely are you to be in danger when you go for water? But this was in Nigeria, and interestingly enough, men and women alike both said that they felt like they were in danger when they go for water.
Interesting.
What do you know? Like usually, like around what time of the day these people are going to get the water, or these girls rather?
Yes. Usually, for most people, it is early in the morning.
Okay.
Early in the morning, because early in the morning, for those people who go there first, they usually say that the water is settled. For such water points such as springs and dug wells.
Yeah.
But later along the day, when there are many people fetching water at the same time, such number of people can cause the water to become contaminated, mud, and other things like that.
Got it.
All right.
Yeah, and the other time that they usually go fetch water is later in the evening, around 6 p.m.
Got it.
One interesting case about that is that sometimes the water that you fetch in the morning, you'll have to consume it along the day, in the afternoon. So around 6 or 5 p.m., you won't have enough water to use until the next morning. So you have to go fetch water again in the evening.
How do they carry the water?
So primarily they use jerry cans and buckets, which are usually around 10 to 20 liters.
All right, 10 to 20 liters.
And so for women and for girls, they usually have to put the buckets or the jerry cans on top of their heads.
How old are they when they start going and like fetching water?
Well, I'm not very sure, but I've seen girls who are about 5 years of age go fetch water, but they usually carry jerry cans, which are about 5 liters or less.
And usually, will they go like in groups, or will they go with their moms or with friends?
In most cases, they go in groups. It could be a girl with her sister, or it could be a girl with her mother, or as friends.
So I guess like a kind of a segue to our next set of questions is, how do they know where to get the water from?
Oh, I see. Okay.
We did a.
So how?
Go ahead, Amanda. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm thinking, I don't have a personal experience with that, but they usually know where water points are found.
And you remember last year, Amandus, we did a survey where we asked people, how many water sources do you do you typically, go to?
Uh-huh.
And we found that there was
Yes.
an average of 3 per family, sometimes less and sometimes more, but they had a set of water points, and they liked different ones for different reasons. Sometimes it was social, that they knew like their friend would be there, and this is the woman's one chance to get out of the house for the whole day.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they like the taste of a certain water source because it has minerals that, they think they really like the way it's going to taste. Or sometimes there's all the water sources are locked down during parts of the day, especially the wellheads, and they go there because they know that one is open. One of the things we're trying to do is inform them, is we map water sources and monitor them for contamination. So we're trying to inform them of safety, to make safety one of their choices when they go for water.
Interesting. So, like, another question that we had was, like, do they have any methods of purification? Like the basic, boiling the water, getting rid of the germs or anything like that?
So they have the opportunity to boil if they have enough fuel, if they have enough wood around, and they have the opportunity to put in some water purification tablets if they wanted. But the overwhelming majority of the population does not. And studies, with behavioral modification training to try to encourage people to treat their water. Treating the water is usually the least effective intervention that you can do to make water safe in a community.
Mm.
Yes, and to add to that, some people use solar disinfection as a method of purifying the water before drinking.
Uh-huh.
And there are other communities that they fetch water and they let it settle and stand for about a day before they start using it for drinking.
So, when you guys were doing your field research for your app, like, what was the most kind of surprising or most interesting thing that you found when you were doing your research for your app?
One of the things that was really interesting, we found lots of interesting things about healthcare providers and health workers, but I think your focus is much more on people, right? The water users.
Mm-hmm.
So when we started this 3 years ago, we thought we were making Yelp for water. We thought we would help people, have a map that people would pull up to find out the water sources and what their safety was. But we found that just like, I would experience anywhere else with water infrastructure, that people just want to not think about their water. They want to just turn on the tap and have water, or go to the well and have water. And so it needed to be an infrastructure level intervention instead of a person level intervention. So then we changed our focus to partnering with utilities to let utilities map water sources, and the safe public health part of the city to map water sources in the city, in the urban and the rural areas, for them to be in charge of safety instead of people at the people level. It's something that I think isn't as sexy, but we've found that working to improve infrastructure is much more effective than working to try to change water-seeking behavior.
What percentage of Tanzanians have smartphones?
That's a good question. I don't know. I'm sure you could look at GSMA's website. GSMA would have up-to-date numbers. The African continent is the fastest growing smartphone market on the planet, so it's increasing, but most people still have dumb phones and feature phones.
Mm.
Yeah.
And do you know, at what age do people get phones?
Sam, on this?
Yeah. So it's becoming a different aspect now in our societies in Africa. Because when I was growing up, for example, my family were not allowed to have a mobile phone until you're around 19.
Mm-hmm.
So it is still the same, but some families allow their children to have mobile phones, especially smartphones, even below that age, starting around 14 and above. But there's many of the families in Africa, especially in Tanzania, is that you have to be at least a high school graduate to be allowed to have a mobile phone.
Wow.
I think that one of the issues that's a little bit different in many of the countries that we work in, especially in the African continent, is that mobile phones aren't quite thought of as a one person owns this entity. If you have someone in your family has one, you think of yourself as having a mobile phone. You have access to one. It's like a shared commodity.
Mm-hmm.
So if a woman's son has one, a woman theoretically thinks of herself as having a phone. It's even neighbors would share a phone.
I see. We have another question. So those who are collecting the water, do they use the phones, or like they can't afford the phones?
Like for those people who are in the rural areas who have to go to collect the water, like I guess our disconnect was, or our question was like,
How prevalent?
huh?
Like how does everyone use phones or not?
Yeah, like how do they use their phones if they have the phones? Like can they afford the phones if they can't? They still have to travel so far to get the water.
I think walking for minutes and walking for water are both burdens on people in rural areas.
Yeah.
They have to pre-charge, or reload their phones with minutes, and they'll get very small increments. If they're the poorer they are, the smaller increments they'll load on their phones. My experience, Amanda, is many people have phones, but not the poor and more dangerous their lifestyle. The less likely they are to be able to have minutes on their phone.
Yeah, and then also, like, what do they mostly use their phones for? Talking to each other, texting each other,
Playing games.
games.
I would say texting is more common than calling, wouldn't you, Amanda?
Yes, texting is more common than calling, and so lately this year and the last year, we have systems of recharging mobile money transactions.
Mm-hmm.
So we have things called M-Pesa, Tigo Pesa, and Airtel Money, where people can have money saved on their mobile phones. So the other primary use, other than texting, will be sending money to their relatives or receiving money from their relatives, and they can get that money in cash from an agent of such mobile money transaction services.
What are the main demographic of your app?
Our app is mainly for healthcare providers, frontline community health workers, water managers. Like I said, we used to have an app that was focused on people like water users, and I think we're circling back to do that in Mexico. But we found that it was more effective for us to work on the city managers and the people who are trying to inform the community about water than to focus on clients or users that were themselves the water users.
Is your app all in English?
No, it's in English and Swahili and Spanish, and we're working on translating it in the next month or two, also to, what are we doing next? French and Portuguese.
Oh, wow. So another question we had was, how did you go about promoting your app?
I'm very active on social media, and so we do a lot of work connecting with leaders in different cities. Cities are our favorite partner level through social media, but we also once we got a USAID DIV investment, they're very good at promoting use also, and so they promoted us in several major arenas and conferences like World Water Week. We have to work on getting articles written about us, blog posts written about us, especially in an African context, and that seems to work quite well.
So we still are trying to make a connection between the girls who are getting the water and kind of like the safety. So could you tell us anything about the safety levels in general, especially for the girls in Tanzania?
I know you're focused with water, but one of the most dangerous things is actually sanitation related, especially during menstruation. If there are, for example, if a school has toilets, the girls are often not allowed to use it while they're menstruating, and so they have to go off by themselves outside of the school.
Yeah.
And that's very dangerous. That's where many of them are sexually assaulted. And if even if a household has a toilet, they're usually a woman or girl is not allowed to use it while they menstruate, and they go off by themselves, and that's a big danger point. So the water walk is very related. Access to services and improving sanitation and educating families on the menstruating issue is all very interrelated. But as far as safety goes, that's the most dangerous time, is that when a woman is menstruating.
Yeah. Do you think that like a simple solution to that would be just have extra bathrooms, or do you think that the girls would maybe be too embarrassed to go to it because they're menstruating, or do you think that would be like a viable solution to this?
Well, that's the official policy, like the Joint Monitoring Program's policy is to have bathrooms that are dedicated for females at schools and health facilities, and to educate people that there's nothing unclean or unsafe about a menstruating woman, that she can still share a bathroom with a man while she's menstruating.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. Go ahead, Amandus.
No, I was just agreeing to your point that instead of having separate latrines or toilets or bathrooms for girls who are menstruating and the rest of the family members, it's really important that people should understand that there's nothing wrong, either biologically or healthy or medically, for sharing a bathroom with a lady who is menstruating and other members of the family or school or a certain community.
Right.
The walk for water is definitely also dangerous. I don't want to dissuade you from that. That's a very interesting piece of research that we just finished in Nigeria. We put GPS devices on the jerry cans so that we could map a community's walk for water and find out who is going where and where water sources are needed most. And we found that there's an interesting relationship where the water source, if the water source is very far away, men are more likely to sometimes share in the task of gathering water. Like they'll put up the jerry cans on a bike, or they'll share a car with a bunch of men in the neighborhood if there's like one man that has a car, and take them.
Uh-huh.
But if you do move a water source closer, then the men don't have any part in taking responsibility over gathering water, over fetching water. And so sometimes it can have an adverse effect from what the planners meant whenever they create a water source. We were able to establish that kind of relationship by doing an unobserved monitoring of the walk for water through GPS.
Interesting.
So I guess this is it for our questions. Do you have any other information that you'd like to share with us?
Just in general, one of the things that we're struggling with is that everybody perceives the solution as building more wells. And in our studies, we found that within a year, 100% of shallow wells become contaminated and are just as dangerous or more dangerous than the situation that existed before the water source was created. Yeah. So we're trying to encourage a change in mindset. In rural areas, one borehole is better than 20 wells, even if the walk for water stays long. And then in urban and peri-urban areas, which increasingly is where Africans live, in Tanzania, this is a great example. The urbanization is just very rapid. People live in slums or informal settlements outside of the city. It's called peri-urban. And the peri-urban solution is to extend piped water and have kiosks instead of creating wells. So it's very hard for us to convince NGOs that, wells, I call wells the charismatic megafauna of water. They just so love them. They're very easy to budget, how much they're going to cost. And you can say, I built a well. But they're not a sustainable water source.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Annie and Amanda.
No problem. Good luck.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah,
thank you let us know what you end up doing.
We'll probably email you if we think of anything that we completely forgot to ask. But thank you so much for your time.
All right. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Thank you too. Okay, bye bye.